my fellow comic book collectors. It's Alan, the Comic Collector Geek, and these are the hottest Golden Age comics for the week. I'm actually going to do something a little different this week. I'm comparing uh, my comic shop's Prime auction. Like they have every month, they have this Prime auction, and this is the October Prime auction, and it's their big auction where they bring in a whole bunch of Golden Age, a whole bunch of pretty major books actually, and I'm going to compare that 5 books from my comic shop and 5 books from Heritage Auctions, and let's see how they do. The first book on my list is First Love Illustrated number 13. This is from July of 1951, and it's a Harvey publication. It's a great, lovers caught in the loft kind of situation where you see the farmer coming up with a flashlight. Almost reminds me of That Farmer's Daughter a little bit, but just a really interesting book. One of the titles of the stories actually kind of surprised me. It's Teenage Sex Club. I thought that was crazy as a title for a story. It just shows you how wild things got in the pre-code era. It's a Bob Powell cover. Now, this was a raw copy that came up for sale, and it sold. It was a raw 4.0. Now, my comic shop is really good about grading, so 4.0, my comic shop could be actually higher than that. Like, they generally undergrade their comics, but that being said, it's still a raw 4.0, so you gotta we'll base the pricing on that. But it sold for $232. Now, there are no prior records for this book, so I had to do a lot of math to figure out, was this a good price, and what should have it sold for. The most recent sale was a 9.2, and it sold for $660 in September of 2023, so last month, which kind of gives you a price point, like per point value of around $70, maybe $65, depending, but around $70, we'll say. So with that in mind, if it's $70 per point and it was a 4.0, well, then that would get you around $280. However, I always knock off 20% of the value for the cost of getting it graded. So, and that uncertainty of the fact that it's a raw copy. So 280 minus 20%, it gives you around $224. So this was $8 over what you would expect it to sell for. So basically it sold for what you would expect. So not a bad sale. There are 25 of these on the census, and 25 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Just a cool book. I thought it was funny that it had this Teenage Sex Club as a title. I just thought it was as a story title. I just thought that was crazy. Number 9 on the list is Submariner Comics number 13. This is a timely comic from 1944, Alex Schomburg cover. It has hooded figures, snake bondage, woman in the red dress. She's like wrapped around by a snake. It has Japanese like propaganda on it as well, where you got these crazy buck-tooth Japanese soldiers. And then also it has skeletons. So it has like so many classic elements on it. You'll notice there's a bit of a sub-theme after this point of maybe a little bit of getting ready for Halloween. So there's a lot of horror elements on this list. But I just thought there was just so many cool things going on for this book. And that's something very typical with Alex Schomburg. His early timely stuff had a lot of stuff going on and just really, really great covers. This was a CGC restored copy that came up for sale, and it sold for $1,442 in a 2.0 restored. So there were no prior records for this book, so we don't have anything to compare it to. However, there was a restored 2.5 that sold for $1,500 in January of 2022. So slightly higher grade, sold for about the same. And there was a blue label that sold in September of 2021 for $2,640. So I kind of think that this sold for pretty much what it had sold for in the past, like what you would expect it to sell for, because it is a slightly lower grade than the 2.5, but it's been a year, so you kind of expect it to go up slightly, but it's in that kind of price range. There are 57 of these on the census, and 49 of them are universal blue labels. The next on the list, another from my comic shop, is Startling Terror Tales number 12. This is from 1952 from Star Comics. It features these bloody hands kind of reaching at you. And it's also kind of interesting. Most of these Star publication ones are reprints. What L.B. Cole did, and it's an L.B. Cole cover, is he bought the rights to basically reprint a lot of older comics. And then what he would do is put his own cover on them. So you get this kind of cool new cover on reprinted material. Well, in this one, there is some original material mixed in. So it's a bit of a blend of old material and new material. So some old material from like Blue Beetle, for example. Just a cool, cool book in general. This was another raw sale, a 4.5, and it sold for $1,658. There are no prior records for this book in this grade. However, there was a 5.0 that sold for $1,560. So this actually, the 4.5 sold for more than the 5.0 graded copy. And that was a sale from July of 2023. So recent sale. So this was a very strong sale for a 4.5 raw copy. I would have expected this to sell for maybe around $1,300. So this was a very strong sale. There are 31 of these on the census, and 30 of them are universal blue labels. Number 7 on the list is Phantom Lady number 16. One of my favorite books. It's one that was mentioned in The Seduction of the Innocent. It's a Matt Baker cover. It's from Fox Features Syndicate from 1948. So many things in my mind that I like. Very collectible to me. This one was mentioned in The Seduction of the Innocent because they referenced a woman as being a fat slut. That's quote from Wortham, but also from the book. So that's why it made it into The Seduction of the Innocent. And it's a really great cover. It's not Phantom Lady. That's kind of the main feature on the cover, though, which is a little bit of a drawback of it. But it is a beautiful Matt Baker cover. So this was a CGC 6.5 that sold, or sorry, 5.5 that sold, and it sold for $1,875. The previous record for this book was set back in August of 2015 for $1,314.50. Excuse me. Okay, so it's up like $500 in the last 8 years. So not bad. Return on investment, a little bit of up on this one. There are 86 of these on the census, and 74 of them are universal blue labels. Number 6 on the list is Weird Tales of the Future number 1. Now, this is a really great book because it's a great title, the great series, I should say. This is from 1952. It's a SPM publication. It's got the woman in the red dress, some weird creepy alien creatures on it. It looks like she's getting sucked up with a tractor beam or something like that. But this title has really great covers. A lot of them are by Basil Wolverton, and this is also a Basil Wolverton cover. Now, Basil Wolverton is known for really kind of creepy, kind of weird alien creatures, or even people that look kind of weird and creepy too. My favorite from the series is number 5, but this is still a pretty cool cover. I mean, the fact that he did it as well. And this was a big one because this was a CGC 7.5 that sold, and it sold for $2,700. Now, this was what I think a steal of the week, and I'll explain why I consider this the steal of the week. Though this is a record, it's actually a record. The previous record for this book was set back in May of 2003, so 20 years ago, for $718. So 20 years ago, it's gone up, sure. However, there was a 7.0 that sold back in May of 2022, so just last year, for $4,320. So this is a higher grade, and it sold for almost half, almost half. So that's pretty brutal. So this was a major steal. I think people didn't realize because there was nothing to compare it to in the grade, and somebody just got a really great steal. This was a good buy. So there are 62 of these on the census, and 60 of them are universal blue labels. Number 5 on the list. Now, these ones are all, from number 5 to number 1, are all heritage auctions. Number 5 was Lars of Ms, number 10. This is a Ziff Davis cover from 1951. Ziff Davis is the company, the publisher. They did a lot of really great stuff, but for some reason they don't get the love that many other publishers get. But this was a really great cover. It's a Murphy Anderson cover, and it's like a classic robot cover, good girl art cover. It's also the first appearance and origin of Lars. Not that he's a major character, but it's his first appearance. And it's also the first issue of the title. They did that a lot with where it's like number 10, but it's really the first issue. So this is was a CGC 7.0 that sold for $960. Now, the previous record for this book was set back in August of 2021 for $690. So basically they switched the two numbers and that's the new price. So it's gone up like $300 in the last 2 years. That's pretty good record for this book. There are 36 of these on the census, and 33 of them are universal blue labels. So pretty great sale. The next one on the list is Journey into Unknown Worlds, number 36, which is actually the first issue of the title. So it's actually considered to be number 1. This is from Atlas, which is Marvel, and this is from 1950. It's a Russ Heath cover. It's the first issue, as I was saying. It was formerly known as Teen Comics, and it's ranked actually number 6 on the Overstreet top 10 sci-fi covers of all time. So it's a really great sci-fi cover. Get aliens blasting ships. I got this 4-eyed alien on the cover. Just a cool cover. And it's number 6 on the Overstreet list. And it's Russ Heath, I should say. Now, this was a 7.0 that sold, and it was a CGC 7.0 that sold for $1,110. And it was also from the feed store, not pedigree, but, collection. There was a bunch of these feed stores collection comics coming up on Heritage currently. This is just another one of those. Now, the prior record for this book was set back in April of 2021, and it sold for $850. So this is up like $300 from that prior record. The interesting thing about this book was my good friend Steve Gentner. He actually, I was actually going to bid against him, but I found out he actually was bidding on this book on My Comic Shop. And he got it in a 3.5 for $170. which is a steal. So this is like a second bonus steal of the week. He got a major steal. I actually was going to bid up to a couple $100, so he might have overbid me anyways. But so it was a 3.5 that he got. Normally they go for around $400 in that grade, so he did really, really well. He got an even bigger steal of the week, and that was on the same My Comic Shop Prime auction. There are 77 of these on the census, and 74 of them are Universal Blue Labels. So he got a great steal. This was a big sale on Heritage, and we'll go on to the next one. Number 3 on the list is Ghost Comics number 2. This is a Fiction House comic from 1952. It's actually my favorite of the Ghost comic series. It's just, Ghost Comics ran 10 issues. I think it was 10 issues. 10 or maybe, was it 12 issues? Okay. It was something like that. 10 or 12 issues. I always forget. But they were all done with Maurice Whitman covers. Just really great artist that I really like. And for a while, during the comic boom of COVID period, these books had really gone up through the roof kind of thing. They were hot. It's currently we're in a hot time for pre-code horror comics, but these were kind of booming a lot earlier. And whenever things boom early, you can expect them to kind of go down. And that's something to be aware of. So this one is a classic Good Girl lingerie cover. It's my favorite from the title, actually. This was a 5.0 that a CGC 5.0 that sold for $1,140. Now, the previous record for this book was set back in August of 2021 for $1,800. Now, there was actually been a couple sales in between this sale and that $1,800 sale, and they've all been progressively getting lower and lower. So this book has been kind of on a downward trend. So this shows that even the golden age was kind of impacted by the COVID bump. And it's just something to be aware of, that, you know, even golden age can go down. And this is an example of it. And it's a great book. I love this book. It's a really great cover, lingerie cover, just a really classic cover. Now, there are 83 of these on the census, and 80 of them are Universal Blue Labels. So this is a bit of a steal too. I mean, if you view it that way, where it's kind of going down, this is the lowest price that it's had in the last 2-3 years. So pretty much a steal. Number 2 on the list is another classic book. This is Gangsters Can't Win, number 2. Now, this is from DS Publishing from 1948. The artist on the cover is unknown. We don't know who the artist that did the cover is. But it is a classic skull cover. Kind of reminds me of Punch Comics number 12, in the fact that you got the skull with like people inside the skull, and there's like, it's kind of like a skull with like prison bars and like people like doing different things inside. Very interesting cover. Actually, I almost prefer it over Punch 12. It's got its own kind of coolness to it. I might be biased because I have this book in my collection, so maybe a little bit of a bias there. This was a CGC 4.5 that came up, and it was sold for $1,920. Now, there is no prior record for this book. This is the only sale in the grade, so this is it is a new record. However, there was a 4.0 that sold back in October of 2022 for $1,260, and there was a 5.0 that sold for $2,262 back in July of 2023. So this is kind of in that realm of what you would expect the book to sell for. You know, $1,900. It's kind of in between the two numbers, and also with the fact that it's a year later than the first of those two numbers. So kind of what you would expect this book to go for. So not a super exciting, not a major sale or anything like that, but kind of a confirmation of the price. So just a good sale in that respect. There are 31 of these on the census, and 30 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Last book on the list, the hottest book of the week, just based on the numbers, is Ghostly Weird Stories number 122. Now, this is a Star publication as well, which is another one of these L.B. Cole, he owned the right, it was his company. It's also L.B. Cole cover. It's from 1954. It's got this astronaut that is having a bad day because he's like skeletal, and his ship has crashed. It just looks like he's really having a bad day. But it's a classic sci-fi cover. It also features Jay Disborough story and art inside. So very cool book. The interesting thing about it, you're probably wondering why it's 122. It's actually the third issue in the series, but it was previously titled Blue Beetle, and they in Blue Beetle ran from 1 all the way up to 119, and then it switched to Ghostly Weird Stories in 120. So this was a CGC 3.0 that sold for $2,640, and the previous record for this book was set back in April of 2022 for $2,040. So it's up $600 from that prior record just last year. There are 76 of these on the census, and 72 of them are Universal Blue Labels. So how did we compare? Pretty much both, pretty much very similar between Heritage Auctions and My Comic Shop. Both auction sites seem to do really well. I think Golden Age is fairly hot. There were a few books that did kind of come down. But what did you think? What did you think of these sales? And what do you think about Golden Age, pre-code horror, and sci-fi? It was that was kind of the theme this week. And one romance book actually, but mostly pre-code horror and sci-fi. So yeah, so if you enjoyed the list, tell me, give me a thumbs up, and thanks for watching. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and bye for now.